Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to It's Rainmaking Time. This is Kim Greenhouse, and I'm asking myself probably the same question you might be asking today. Are there such things as secret maps of the ancient world? Well, Charlotte Harris Rees thinks so. Charlotte Harris Rees is the author of Secret Maps of the Ancient World, and also an abridged and edited version of her father's text, The Asiatic Fathers of America, Chinese Discovery and Colonization of Ancient America. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're looking for a modern-day Columbo with great eloquence, style, and grace, with a ton of humility, welcome Charlotte Harris Rees to It's Rainmaking Time. Good morning.
Good morning. I don't know what to say after that introduction.
Well, hopefully you won't do what I did when I was introduced at a tournament for tennis many, many years ago at a young age, which is I opened the match and I served the ball and hit the side of the racket with the ball and it went 500 feet across the tennis court. I was so embarrassed. Anyway, you won't do that, I'm sure.
I hope not.
One of the things that led me to reading your book and talking to you is that you were inspired by Gavin Menzies, and on Gavin's site, the author of 1421 and 1434, I had seen your book, and I've always been fascinated with maps, and I have maps all over my home and globes. I have an absolute fascination with them. I don't know if you knew that.
No, I didn't.
And so anything having to do with discovery and exploration, I thought I was stunned when I had read Gavin's book, 1421, about the fact that the Chinese were here before Columbus. But then when I realized that you actually had access to maps from your father, who had realized that the Chinese were in America, what we call America, I guess there's another name for it, Fusang? Fusang. Obviously, I need Chinese lessons. They were here thousands of years before Columbus. That is a whole different context of discovery and revelation. Talk to us a little bit about your father.
Well, my father was born in Kaifeng, China, and his parents were missionaries there. But as early as he learned Chinese, he learned English, and so he was well-versed in the Chinese classics, including the Shanhai Jing, which talked about their explorations to this beautiful land to the east of them.
In 1972, your father was in Korea, in an old, what was it, a shop?
It was an antique shop. At that point in his life, my father was a missionary himself, and when he would come back to the United States, he would buy old paintings and sell them in the United States to supplement his income. So he was not looking for maps, he was looking for antique paintings. But the proprietor of the store said, well, would you look at an old map? And he said, well, sure, I'll look at it. But when he saw the map and saw that it showed Fusang, which is where the Chinese said they had been coming, and Father recognized that this was the American coastline, he said he became so weak he had to sit down. He was just flabbergasted. He said, now we know for sure where Fusang was.
There was another person who had studied Shanhai Jing.
Yes.
Is it Dr. Covey?
Yes.
Talk about his findings and his 50 years of work in understanding China's association with America.
Right. Dr. Covey, who is a professor emeritus history at Wake Forest University in North Carolina, he had run across a book that was written by a Chicago attorney, Henrietta Mertz, in 1953, which compared the Shanhai Jing, and the Shanhai Jing actually gives specific directions. Now, when it was written, it said that they went to the ends of the world, and so she took particularly the eastern journeys, which would have been east of China, and she took a topographical map of the world, and she said this fits no place else but America. And so she charted some of these journeys where it said go so far and you'll see this, go so far and you'll see this. So she charted some of these journeys. Well, Dr. Covey had run across this, and then he had also studied it more. So for about 55 years now, he has been studying the Chinese journeys to America and has lectured he no longer lectures, but he was lecturing for many years on this topic.
What is the resistance to discovery in your experience? You've spent 5 years on this book. You've been to the Library of Congress, these maps that were your father's maps. What other maps did you find?
Well, at this point, it's been 7 years I've been on this journey. But I did hear about a map that's in the vault at the Library of Congress. When I first went to the Library of Congress, wanted to take our maps there, I had a question, and they said, okay, you need to contact this man in Beijing. Now, the man in Beijing, Dr. Lee, had been working at the Library of Congress and had seen this map, and he says, you need to ask to get into the vault to see this map. Now, this particular map is dated, they've carbon dated it to the late 14th century, and yet they refused to fully verify it. Now, this map has on it, and I've seen it, and my husband and brother and several other people have seen this map. It has both European script and Asian script on it. It shows Asia and part of North America, including Alaska and a little bit south of that. But even though the Library of Congress has had this map for over 50 years, they have not fully verified it.
What does that mean when they have to verify it? Is that an authentication process, or what is it?
Right.
Who authenticates it?
Well, I would think that they would. You know, there's a map division, specific geography and maps division at the Library of Congress. Now, for the Chinese maps and the Asian maps, they had brought in this Dr. Lee from Peking University to study those. But I don't know why they have not gone ahead with this particular map, because to me it's something that's very important. Did the Chinese get to America before Columbus? Now, of course, this is just a few years before Columbus because it's late 14th century. But what I'm saying in our maps, the information I found about our style maps precedes Columbus by not just hundreds of years, but thousands of years.
Do you think that it's a conscious attempt on part of the Library of Congress to not want to deal with that potential information? The way it's looking?
At this point, yes. I have waited patiently for many years for them to either verify it or deny it.
Do they have to?
Do they have to?
Yeah. Who is the Library of Congress? Can you explain that to the listeners?
Okay, it's a government agency. It's also where all books are copyrighted, but it's also has the most important maps in the world, probably the most important map collection in the world, extensive collections. It has George Washington's maps, which they showed us. It has all kinds of ancient maps. The vault is larger than a football field. With,
oh my God!
With shelves, they're flat shelves with drawers that they pull out with different layers of maps in them. It's a wonderful collection that they have of maps. Of course, they're not required to verify any map, but I would think that a map of this importance in this day and age, they would want to verify.
Well, I think the telling of the desire for verification begins with who is the Library of Congress, what are they about, not just what they have a collection of. Do they want to know that? Maybe they don't want to know that.
Originally, they were set up to be the library that Congress would use, that the Congress of the United States would use. But now they are the main library of the United States of America. So if you want to have any book in the United States through interlibrary loan, many of the books at the Library of Congress